A while back I posted on this guy and called him a traitorous Trump lackey because he was one, since he was actually trying to get the Trump Justice Department to summarily but very illegally intervene to reverse a totally valid election they simply didn't like. And now here we have ourselves another first-class Trump lackey and even worse traitor, since he has been in Congress for years as part of the so-called Freedom Caucus, though the only freedom they're interested in is their own, even while thinking nothing of or even promoting the loss of freedom among vast groups of human beings they don't like, such as people of color and women. I've seen this guy wreak havoc on the good work of government ever since he entered Congress as a Tea Party fanatic back in 2013. Their strategy was to say no to everything Obama was doing, and their main achievement was to repeal Obamacare over and over again, even though it never actually happened, then or later. But this goes to show you the GOP has spent more than a decade engaging in optics and theatrics instead of governing. After the Orange Menace went through several chiefs of staff, who in the end could not acquiesce to all of his impulses, basically because some of them were criminal in nature, he decided to give Meadows the job, in part because by that time there were few that were interested, but more importantly because Mark here is obviously built from the same corrupt protoplasm as his orange boss. So when they lost the election by 7 million votes and a clear majority in the Electoral College, Meadows set about aiding and abetting the big lie that the election had been stolen by way of a totally invented theory of massive fraud. As a result, he now finds himself subpoenaed by the House Committee investigations into the Trump-created and directed mayhem of January 6th, and he is very likely to be asked, under oath, a lot of very uncomfortable questions about what was happening at the White House on and around that date. But before I tell you about his upcoming transits, look at his tight Sun-Neptune square, reflecting that same corruption and delusion his orange boss engages in, together with gaslighting and deceiving as a habitual way of life. And this is one chart that, even without a birth time, accurately reflects the tremendous state of tension this guy is in, and that it is going to continue, and that it is going to get worse. Saturn opposing his Sun this year, and possibly squaring his Moon if he is born in the first half of his day of birth, while Uranus, which at birth squares Jupiter and his Moon, is currently conjoining that very Moon. And speaking of conjoining, this is not the astrological action you want in conjunction with being investigated about something that could get you in very hot water. But worse, next year is no better because Uranus will be squaring the Leo planets while it opposes Jupiter, and Saturn will be challenging in much the same way from Aquarius. And finding respite in 2023 is a no-go because Saturn in Pisces then opposes all those Virgo planets. Onward and upward connotes prosperity, but for this guy, it looks to me like onward and downward for a significant period of time. And I have to say, it is very richly deserved, because in my mind, few things are lower than a traitorous criminal plutocrat pretending to be honest, even while he works to implement his version of fascism at the expense of democracy.